Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, I apologize. I'm really stopped up today. I tried to wait until the stopped upness went away, but the stopped upness never went away. I don't think stopped upness is a word, but we'll go with it. You know what I mean. Language for the most part is always changing, and it's all about communication. Let me check my sound first. I hope everyone is doing okay. It's 12:40 on a Thursday. Guys, if you find yourself floating here often, please subscribe to the channel. We're moving up. And yeah, if you feel yourself coming often, please subscribe and definitely hit the notification bell. People say they haven't get the notifications. I've seen a lot of people in the comments say they haven't gotten the notifications. I don't know what to say about YouTube on this one. I don't know if they're intentionally shutting off communications on certain channels. I have no idea. Would I put it past them? No. I mean, these were the people who were changing around the information on Hillary Clinton during the election. So, I don't know. That's all we got, though. And tomorrow, Richard Wolff. Sorry, it takes a moment for me to just flip out. I'm thinking about what I'm doing on the show, so I'm bad at doing two things at once. Richard Wolff is going to be on the show tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning. That is going to be amazing. That's going to be amazing. Somebody was like on Twitter, "Hey, dude, don't drop an F-bomb in front of the Marxist socialists." It's like, don't interrupt them with a fuck yeah. I don't think I said fuck yeah, but if I have, I'm not shocked by it. Look, sometimes I'm talking to someone and the person is saying something that is mind-blowing to me. When I was talking to Horn, Professor Horn, and I had to keep stopping because what he was saying was mind-blowing, and I didn't want it to go past. He's saying stuff that to him is perfectly normal, but to the regular population who's hearing him, they're like, it takes a second for them to process it, and I wanted to, wait. Just so we're clear on what you're saying. This is what you're saying. I wanted to be very clear. But I don't think I dropped the F-bomb in front of him. That being said, in front of Jordan, maybe. But Jordan is different. It's funny. I look at people in different ways, and maybe it's because I have a certain reverence for what Horn is saying, and I kind of feel the same way about Wolff. Yeah. It's very few people who I look at and they've drastically influenced how I see the world. Richard Wolff was one of those people. Jack Fresco was one of those people. James Baldwin was one of those people. You can say King was one of those people. But nevertheless, it's very few of them. Richard Wolff is in that box. I only have 30 minutes with him. I'm going to let Richard Wolff do his thing. I have some questions that I've always had from Richard Wolff anytime that I've heard him talk about worker co-ops. I'm going to fast forward from the Marxian stuff into that and what his political objectives are. Because understand, Richard Wolff has a political objective in doing this. This is not purely I'm an educator. He's a Marxian. Workers own the means of production. And he's come up with a plan in order to do that, but he's coded it in this worker co-op thing. He understands that from a public standpoint, that looks amazing. When he was talking to Varney, however, as a capitalist, he's like, wait a minute, you're attacking capitalists. No, I'm just trying to let workers get more money. It was a wholesome conversation between him and Varney. But I digress. I'm not going to go into that. Richard Wolff is going to be here tomorrow at 10:30. The story for today, I'm going to do this story quick, so I may not necessarily take a huge number of comments. But I did want to put a pin into the story because I thought the story was interesting, and it counts as a U-turn for one of Theresa May's horrible policies. Did you know that 90%, over a 5-month period, they were tracking Obama drones. Over 90%, over 5 months, 90% of those drone deaths hit civilians. Were not the people who they wanted to get. 5-month span, I'm sorry. Let's flip. Why don't you flip? Nearly 90% of those killed by drones were not the intended targets during the 5-month period. Now, at that point, you can't even say you're attacking terrorists. You're just murdering civilians. You literally at that point just have a murder campaign. That's all it is. You can't even say this is 50-50. You can't even say the majority. You can't even say anywhere near the number of people. 10%. That just 10% hit their targets. The reason why I'm so against war is not that I'm this full-on peacenik. It's just that I understand that the people who get killed in these things are often just regular mom, pops, people who are trying to live their lives. They're not these hardened terrorists. They're not people of the governmental structure. They're usually just regular people. That's the catch. That's why I'm against it. The thing is, like war, many of the policies that people take on, because war is just a policy. It's not some esoteric thing. A government makes a determination to have a policy of which is going to have indiscriminate slaughter. Now, other policies that the government take on also have consequences. Meaning the things that they do, these blunt force objects of policies, often have unintended consequences in regards to the people who it hit. It often misses the people who it's actually trying to get. And other people are caught up in the calamity and the slaughter that unfolds. The NHS went with this policy of making things difficult for immigrants. Theresa May came up saying she wanted to create a hostile environment for illegal immigration. Well, what does that mean, a hostile environment? That's an interesting point. What does that mean? I mean, this political language, what does it mean in real terms? Well, what it means in real terms is that there are a lot of people who are Brits, who've been in Britain for a very long time, who weren't able to get services because Theresa May's plan in this was to turn various services in the UK into cops, to turn them into border guards, immigration officials, and essentially turn them into what is considered to be ICE here in the United States. So if you wanted to go to a medical appointment, your data is going to be shared. If you're going to get a house, if you're going to get a job, that data is going to be scrutinized. There are people who lost their jobs and lost their houses overnight, almost overnight, from the policies that Theresa May implemented. Extending this to hospitals, what is the effect on people who may need medical care but don't necessarily want to go for medical care because they're terrified that the border guards that they've turned doctors into will turn them in and they may be deported to some country that they don't necessarily want to be, quote, deported back to. For that matter, what does it mean if you need to get medical care and you're a Brit, but you don't necessarily have your paperwork, even though you are a British citizen? What that means is you may not get medical care. What it means in the first case is you may not even go to the doctor. You may have cancer. You may have some other illness. In one case, the woman was pregnant and decided to not go to the doctor because she didn't want her information shared with border officials, meaning doctors at the NHS. This is the Windrush generation, meaning a lot of Brits, a lot of people who should have been able to get medical care weren't able to get medical care. A lot of people who should have been able to get jobs weren't able to get jobs. A lot of people who should have been able to get housing weren't able to get housing. And these were people who were perfectly valid citizens of Britain that weren't able to get those services. If you're a Brit and you're renting out to somebody and you know that the government has these rules and regulations and all the stuff surrounding it, are you more likely to rent to a person who you know is a through and through Brit just by looking at him versus a person who has a certain mixed heritage that you don't necessarily want to dig into? I'm telling you now, the incentives is not to go through all of the hassle and just to rent to the person who's the Brit. And that's what's been taking place, even though both are Brits. You don't want to deal with the mixed nationality. You don't want to deal with the chance and the paperwork and everything else. That's what they've been showing to be true. That people, for the most part, have turned around and said there's been this kind of discrimination on people who are legal Brits based on this hostile environment to quote-unquote illegal immigration. In the case of the NHS, Theresa May has taken a U-turn, meaning they've changed their policy. They're no longer going to start accepting or take the information from people, only from people who are, I guess, they think are criminals or have done some kind of violent crime. This is The Guardian. NHS will no longer have to share immigrants' data with the Home Office. Exclusive. Minister announces U-turn over key element in hostile environment to immigration policy. And it's nice that The Guardian has all these people with, hijabs on. That's great. Ministers have suspended the controversial arrangement under the NHS sharing patients' data with shared patients' data shared patients' details with the Home Office so it could trace people breaking immigration rules. The government's U-turn on a key element of its hostile environment approach to immigration came after MPs, doctor groups, and health charities warned that the practice was scaring some patients from seeking NHS care for medical problems. Margaret James, the Minister for the Department of Digital, Culture, Media, and Sport, announced the rethink during a parliamentary debate on the Data Protection Bill. She confirmed that the government has decided to suspend with immediate effect, I love the way Brits say this stuff, immediate effect, the Memorandum of Understanding under which the NHS Digital, the Health Services Statistical Arm, shared 3,000 NHS patient details with the Home Office last year so she could check those people's immigration status. Patients had given their details when attending the GP and hospital appointments. In future, Home Office immigration staff would only be able to use the data sharing mechanism to trace people who are being considered for deportation from Britain because they've committed a serious crime, James made clear to MPs. James paved the way for the U-turn by accepting an amendment tabled by the Conservative MP Sarah Woolston and Labour MP Paul Williams, which calls for the MOU to be suspended. Williams, is also a GP, welcomed this huge U-turn, adding, NHS information should only be shared in the event of a conviction or an investigation for a serious crime, not to create a hostile environment where people are afraid to go to their GPs for fear of immigration might be reported to the Department of Work and Pension for benefit sanctions. The government backtracked after MPs on the Commons Health and Social Care Select Committee twice called in unusually strong terms in January and April for data sharing to stop. During evidence on the MOU's impact, it heard how one pregnant woman did not seek any antenatal care because she was too frightened to attend appointments. NHS staff only found out she was expecting when she turned up at the hospital already in labor. Another woman, migrant domestic worker, died after not seeking treatment for a persistent cough, the committee heard. This is amazing. So yeah, they've made a U-turn. Let's see, give me 1 second. The Health and Social Care Act of 2012 allowed for patients' details, which have been provided confidentially to the NHS, to be used to trace immigration offenders. It led to the signing of the MOU between the NHS Digital, the Home Office, and their Department of Health. Last year, it led to more than 3,000 patients having their data passed to the Home Office for its immigration purposes. Of those, 195 requests for data led to the Home Office finding out new information about people. Essentially, they scared the hell out of some people, and in scaring those people, they were terrified to come back for medical care or to even check out medical care. They thought they were going to be deported. So I will leave this here. I'm not going to keep this one long. Not going to keep this one long. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the patron. Look, one thing I will say about this, I am glad that they're receptive to change. Mind you, this was a huge scandal, and it took this massive scandal in order to get them to kind of at least make a U-turn on this very specific front. I don't know how they're going to parse the data between somebody who's a criminal versus somebody who's not. Meaning, if you're not sharing the data, how do you even know that the person is a criminal, that person is wanted? But that being said, it is a change for the positive, and so I'll take it. I don't live there, so me taking it doesn't really mean anything. But I would imagine the Brits who've been negatively affected by this will take it. Thanks, guys.